Hello. Did you like my new little intro? That's something that's happened while I've been away. And from my end, I don't know if you could hear the sound or not, but it's like this build up to this movie scene. It was quite like, the build up to the dramatic thing. So welcome to Monday Night Live. It's Yvonne Shepherd here, founder and CEO of Women's Fitness Adventures. It's been a couple of weeks. I think it's been 2 weeks since I have checked in with you. I have been to all sorts of places and spaces in that time. And I'm going to share some of that with you tonight, share my observations, share some questions, share some tips and insights. But I would really love your input as well. So go ahead and say hello if you're watching. I know there's a bit of a delay as well. But if you're watching live, please go ahead and say hello. If you've got questions, I will happily answer those too. We're here to talk about all things hiking, but particularly questions and comments and observations that relate to women hiking and women hiking in, getting started, moving on in their journey, or wanting to step it up to a challenging thing. So no question is too difficult. And if I don't know the answer, I'll search my brain and see if I can find it. So lovely to have you here. And I'm going to introduce you to someone in just a moment. You can try and guess, but I'm not sure that you will actually guess who that person is or that thing is, what it is. And hello, Karen. How are you? It's lovely to see you here visually, not visually, typing. So lovely to have you here. So I arrived home this morning from Corsica. So it was once we got on the first plane, it was when we got to the first airport, it's probably been about 36 hours in transit from literally where we had to come from. And I have not slept very much in that time. So I am a little bit sleepy. So looking forward to my own bed tonight. It seems like I have been on the go for a long time this time. And hello, Linda from the Central Coast. Hello, Leanne from Cummins. My sister-in-law's family live there. So I know roughly where that is. And hello, Kerry from Victoria as well. So when I last spoke to you on Monday Night Live was 2 weeks ago. I was in the airport in Berlin, ready to fly to Milan, and Leone watching from Gympie as well. And also daylight savings happened while I was not here. So thank you for tuning in if it's a little bit later in your location. So 2 weeks ago, I spoke to you from Berlin. I was in the airport being a little bit secretive because people were listening, heading to Milan to do some post-marathon recovery. What you didn't see on that video, there were lots of people at the airport wearing their marathon clothing and their medals around their neck and stuff. I didn't have mine around my neck. It was in my bag. Was the way everybody was walking, just getting up and down the stairs to the airplane, sitting down in our seat. And the man behind us, he had done the marathon. He was from Australia. And, we were saying this is only day one. Day two was actually the most challenging day. So it doesn't matter whether you are just starting out with your hiking fitness or your, exercise journey, or whether you've been doing it for a little while. When you push your muscles to do something that they haven't done before or don't do regularly enough, you are going to get sore the next day or so, which is DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, which is a perfectly normal thing, and that will pass. So when you see people who've done a marathon, it is literally you cannot walk downstairs straight. You are walking down sideways, you can't. It's very difficult to bend your legs. So when we showed up to our hotel in Lake Como, the ladies behind, it was a beautiful family-run hotel. The ladies behind the counter, they were lovely, and we had a chat to them, and they found out what we did, and we were their source of entertainment, Michelle and I, for a couple of days, because we had to catch the tiny little lift up and down the stairs. But then we thought after a day that we really needed to start pushing ourselves a little bit further and walk up and down the stairs. But they could hear us coming because we were laughing so loudly, and they thought it was just great entertainment. So we made light of it, and we made sure that, we slowly, we didn't do too much for that week or so afterwards, that we slowly let our muscles recover and nourished ourselves and nourished our bodies. Hello, Angela from Paris. We thought about you. You must be nearly ready to head home. Christine from Kirkalocka Rest Area in Western Australia. Hello, Veronica from Yenda. And hello, Marie from Brisbane today. And hello, Sandra from Sydney. So lovely to have all of you here. So my topic for this evening, or for this Monday Night Live, is really the topic of our newsletter last two weeks ago when I did it, and the newsletter that's just gone out this afternoon. And thank you, Colleen. The newsletter that's gone out this afternoon, which is the stopping before we start. And I actually recorded my my initial, letter to you about 10 days ago, or pretty much second day of hiking, I think, on our Corsica adventure. And I was walking along with the group, and the words came to my head, and I actually recorded them into my phone because I thought that it was really, really important. And I was inspired by all the women who were on the Corsica adventure with me. So let me introduce you to something first that I've carried with me for a while. And this is it here. This is Buddy Bear. So you can see Buddy Bear. So it is from the marathon. When I ordered it, I thought Buddy Bear was a soft toy. Buddy Bear is not a soft toy. It is a porcelain little piece. It weighs about, I don't know, 1.5 kilos. And in here you put your time and stuff, and it comes with some stickers for its feet and a little glass plate that says the marathon. And this bear is relevant across all of Germany. So it was the Berlin Marathon I did, if anyone doesn't know. And this bear is relevant across all of Germany, but they've modeled this one particularly on the marathon. And if you look closely, this blue line that goes around, it doesn't go around the back, but there's a blue line that goes through here, is the marathon course. And then they've got all these, 50th anniversary symbols and stuff like that. So it's pretty special, not what I thought would be sitting on the middle of my bed, but it will be something that I will treasure and look at and remind me of the effort and commitment and that not stopping before I start approach to my training. So hello, Heather from Livorno as well. And the tap here to power up. So every time we ran along the course, and it was lined, I think I said this a couple of weeks ago, but you may not have been at that live or watched the replay, is that the course was really heavily lined with people the whole way. And there was so many people that you couldn't really break free to run anywhere. And so you're kind of just running with the rhythm, and you'd find duck and weave and find gaps and stuff. But all along the course, in German and in English, I saw enough English to do it, were people holding banners going tap here to power up, and you just run along and power up. And that made, just a little bit of boost of motivation. And there was also lots of, musicians and bands and stuff like that. And at one point we were all clapping, I think, to Neil Diamond as we're running along. So really great atmosphere. So something really special for me to cherish. And from there I went on to our Corsica adventure, and that was something even more special to cherish as well, because the group of women that we hiked with were amazing. And I'm going to talk about Corsica as well. So I want to talk about stopping before we start and this resilience. And, I got lots and lots of wonderful emails from all of you about my marathon result and just how inspiring that was. So I want to talk about inspiring and being inspired and taking action as well. So let's dive right in. And hello, Chris from Townsville, while driving. So if you have questions or comments, please jump in and say that. So why did I do a marathon, and how relevant is that to hiking, and how you might think, how relevant is that to any of you listening here? So 10 years ago, when I was in my late 40s, I started running, thought a marathon would be a good idea. So I did my very first one, and I was fortunate that my training group, my coach, was he's been in the industry a long time. He and Steve Monaghetti were colleagues, and Steve Monaghetti came up to a training camp. And I remember running alongside Steve Monaghetti, not that I was fast, I was probably the slowest person there. And he was running with every one of the runners when he could. And he said, sometimes you have to do something to know what you need to do next. And I say this with our fitness training as well, is don't get yourself a hike fitness training to a level and then let yourself come all the way back down, because and I said this a few weeks ago, where you get to with your training is where you've always wanted to be. So don't let go of that. Just keep building on that. So my first one was 10 years ago. And what I've done, I finished that one and went, I'm never doing it again. I got injured afterwards. And, it never entered my mind till my friend said this time last year, how about we do Berlin? So I went, okay, why not? Why not, right? Because I could have let all of the hurdles get in the way. I could have stopped before I even started. So what differences were there to me in my 10 years since I did one? Well, I'm 10 years older. The body, something happens to the body, as we know, once you get over 50 or thereabouts. But what I did was I built on that base. I have, as I say all the time, that consistency over time equals results. So I kept showing up. I just kept showing up. I did, and as I say, you don't have to go far, you don't have to go fast, you just need to keep showing up. I became stronger in my body. Having got injured after my first marathon, I never wanted that to happen again. Look, my glasses are crooked. I think I must have sat on them on the plane as well. I never wanted to get injured in that way again. So they're that way. Now I'm going to focus on that. So I became stronger in my body. And that's why we do our online trail fit training. That's why we do the functional fitness online training and on-demand training, so that we can become stronger in our bodies, so that when we're going to minimize the injury that we might get. But what did I learn in the course of the training for this one? And I learned as I'm running along those 42 kilometers, and I look back on it now, and I actually enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Yes, I was tired. Yes, I was having those mind games, but at no point did I think I wasn't going to make it. At no point did I think I need to quit. At no point did I think I'm going to hit the wall because I had put in the work. So what did I learn? The real importance of a training plan. And that training plan was built for me around my lifestyle. So like we do for all of our adventures, we give you a training plan, but we give you that training plan to build around your life and work with us. And as I did with my coach, to work on that training plan for me. And I also learned the importance of a coach, because when we do something ourselves, it's really easy to get stuck there, to not be accountable to anyone. So, finding that accountability buddy, but you need to have that person who's committed to a goal as well. There's no point in having an accountability buddy to someone who, doesn't achieve goals. So a coach was really important as well. This all maps over to hiking, and this all maps over to why when you do a multi-day hike or you do a day hike, having someone there to help and guide you and support you. But what did I learn? How important it was to test gear. Now, we always say that with hiking as well, testing gear. I tested different shorts. I tested different shirts. I would get chafing here. So I don't know if you saw the picture, but I'm actually wearing sleeves on my arms because that was the only thing I could figure out the day before to stop that chafing or burn from happening. I tested out my food, and then I dropped my food at kilometer 32 and I had to go to my backup plan as well. I tested out toilet runs. What happens if I need to? How early do I need to get up to go to the toilet? And let me tell you, I got up super early, but I think the nerves were just kicking in. So if you get nervous before a hike, if you get that little bit of anxiety of, I'm not sure I can do this, it happens to all of us. I don't want to tell you how many times I had to get up because of nerves to go to the bathroom. So in that, I was testing my mind as well. So, what did I learn as I was in my training is that I learned that I can do hard things, hard physical things. We often think that we can't do something because we never put ourselves in a position to do it. So we stop before we start, and that hard thing is relative to each and every one of us. What's your hard thing might be different to my hard thing, to who else is watching here, Vicky and Nicole and Heather, to their hard thing as well. And using the power of the mind. So I went into that run knowing, and I do this for every single hike, and I try and get every single one of our women who are going on our adventures as well, and we had that for Corsica, is that we're going in with this mindset of we are going to participate in every single day. And so I was going to participate in every single kilometer that came along. There was no doubt in my mind that I would not finish it, but that is something that happens in your training, because when you do the training, you do the hike training, you get that confidence. You've done it before. There's no reason why it won't happen again. And the more you do it, the more we start to flex this confidence, self-belief, success in our hiking fitness. The pre-night nerves I've spoke about, the fueling, the food, what I needed to do, and really importantly, and this has come up a lot inside our community, and it's come up a lot on our Facebook page, and questions that come to us is, how do I fuel for a hike? It's not what you eat the night before. It's what you do. Show me your days of food and I'll show you your success for when you're on a hike. Because it's not what we do the night before or the morning of. It's what we do consistently in our daily lives is where the pattern for our behavior with food and our outcome with food for fueling will show up. So, that's a really important thing. And you can only learn that through trial and error. And then as I was running along thinking all of these learnings and what I've, in my post marathon event, what learnings can I take forward and what can I leave behind? And, one of the things that's my word for next year, I've already got, I know we're early, is streamlined. How do I streamline my life? How do I make life simpler? Because let's face it, life has got really complicated for all of us, two-factor authentication and this and that, and you can't really go anywhere now without this. So how do I streamline it? How do I make it simpler so that I can devote my time to the things that are really important to me, which is hiking, which is adventures, which is my running, which is my family, which is gardening. So streamlining all of those things that are just filling time. They're just filling time. So how do I, that's my word for the year, for 25. So one of the things that, today's newsletter was stopping before we start. So as I said a couple of weeks ago, I think, is with our hiking, we can, and we can look at all the roadblocks before we start and say, I'm not starting, because there's too many things in the way. And if we had a crystal ball, we'd make that crystal ball say it's all going to be okay and you're going to be successful. But there would be no fun and no joy and no feeling of success in any of that. So one of the things that we all got really, really good at at the end of 2020 for the next couple of years was change. And when we were forced into change, we all did it. So we can't sit on that fence and say we don't like change, because none of us like change, but we all know we're capable of change. And we were all put in some pretty uncomfortable positions during the pandemic that forced us to make change. And we all, managed to make that change quite well. So what happened on our Corsica adventure was a group of our crew members who showed amazing patience, understanding, resilience, and adaptation to change. And that adventurous spirit really shone through. So unbeknownst to us, a snap strike was called the night before the afternoon before we were all to get on the ferry to go to Corsica. And, everything was a domino effect from then on. So we headed over to the ferry terminal. We sat around for a couple of hours, entertaining ourselves. We did some functional fitness. We did some shuffle dancing. We did all sorts of things. Read some books, played charades, who am I, all those sorts of things. Thinking the ferry, they're going to quickly try and end this strike or social unrest or whatever they called it. But in the background, the guide and I were going, okay, well, what if this doesn't end? What do we need to do? How do we rearrange? How do we ensure that everybody, we're meeting everybody's requirements? And what we did was make sure that everyone was kept informed, that this is what we know, this is what we don't know. And, everyone was so open and so understanding of that, because there was nothing we could do. There was no point in getting agitated. There was no point in getting upset. There was no point in, pointing fingers, because all of it was out of our responsibility. But this is what we say with a lot of things. We worry about things we can't control, which is this stopping before we start. If we had known they were going to pull a strike on Corsica, would we have planned any of it? Probably not. But that's the joy. That's where the gold is. Angela's watching. Angela and I would not have learned our little basic steps of shuffle dancing. We wouldn't have learned a whole lot of stuff about each other. We wouldn't have had time to look around Livorno. We wouldn't have ended ourselves up in this beautiful Italian restaurant where the waiter, it was family-owned business, where the waiter was, making sure that those with dietary requirements at short notice were being taken care of. But just the specialness of our group in being willing and open to change, because if you look at all the things that can potentially get in your way, you probably would go, I'm not doing that. And so thinking about this stopping before we start is really, really important, because we have to start, and we will find our way through that maze. We will find a way through the water, whatever it is. Just like ants find their way around water, they don't like water. Or just like if we can't see a path, we find a way through the trail. Starting is the most important thing. And like life, the path reveals itself. So the other thing, with this stopping before we start is, what are we actually scared of? So I get lots of emails and questions about, and even on our Facebook post from Corsica, is that looks great. I want to start doing that sort of thing. But, oh gosh, I look at those pictures and that scares me. And, pictures tell thousands of words, and pictures don't tell stories. Well, they don't tell emotions unless you're looking at someone's face, that's terrified or something, or happy or sad. But they just show a moment in time, and they can be cropped and they can be anything. But, the comment around this, one of our teams stepping up through, it looked like a big step up. It was like 3 steps up in like next to a sand dune. And the person said, I really want to get into hiking, but looking at that terrifies me. Well, the point is that you don't start at the hardest thing. How to eat an elephant is to bite off one thing at a time. So, well, one bite at a time, whatever that, I get them all mixed up. So, if you want to start, don't start with the hardest thing. If you are already on your hiking journey, then step up to the next thing, or allow yourself time to step up to that bigger thing. But don't stop yourself before you even start, because, we worry about these things that never exist. I'm sure if we put that person who made the comment there on that trail and they looked at it, they would go, oh, that's nothing like I imagined it to be. So I want you to think about that in your planning, in your training, in your commitment to self, is don't stop something before it started because there's too many unknowns or too many things that you think might come up that you have absolutely no control over. But I also think we place too much importance on what other people think as well. Like, oh, I'm too slow. What will other people think of me? Or I'm too slow. I'll be holding everybody up. I think I have to get, I was at the dentist today because my crown came off while I was away. So anyway, that's fixed. Bad batch of glue, apparently. I'm not sure. And I said to her, are you coming back to something or other that we had in common? She goes, no, I have to do this first. It's like, no, you don't. It's like cleaning the house for the cleaner to come. You don't have to do that first. So that's stopping before we start. So the other thing, tying in together, stopping before we start, and this, what I learned from the marathon is a summary of Corsica. So I'm just going to introduce those to the bear who haven't seen the bear yet. Buddy Bear got home in one piece. From our Corsica adventure, and Corsica is such a wild, beautiful island, and a bit like Tassie with some windy roads, or New Zealand, takes a while to get to, but such a contrast of landscapes and such friendly people as well. They're French, but they're not French. They're Corsican, birthplace of Napoleon Bonaparte as well. So what we learned in Corsica is to adapt. So, the weather was variable, which meant sometimes we had to change our plans. Sometimes the ferry didn't come, or that we needed to have a picnic that day rather than, sit down in the cafe, those sort of things. So we were able to adapt. But we also learnt, and if any of our Corsican Adventure ladies are watching, you might want to chime in as well. And I haven't had any questions or comments yet, so please go ahead and make some. And as I said, I only got home to my house at 8:30 this morning, so I am starting to get a little bit weary. So if I start babbling on, just let me know. Is not to think too far ahead. So when our guide was talking about the trail for the next day, and this happens on all adventures, and, we know our members, so we know what the triggers are, is that you can be sitting there thinking, she said, what? I have to do that? No way. And then you go ahead, go to bed, sleep on it, not very well, and wake up in the morning really worried and really anxious about it. And undulating, Heather, yeah, thank you. And the key is to not think too far ahead. It's that obstacles, stopping before you start letting the obstacles get in the way. Because I know when we did a hike earlier this year, a multi-day, one of the ladies said she didn't sleep the night before, our longest day on that multi-day. And she was so worried that she wouldn't be able to do it. But when she finished that day, that's only when she told us, she said, all that worry for nothing, because she knows that we would have told her if she wasn't capable of making it. So, or doing it, or, having to stop halfway. So really important to not think too far ahead. And the things that we worry about don't normally happen. So the trail up, the trail down, undulating. So where Heather is referring to is our guide said undulating, which we think is just like little things like that, but it actually was much steeper than that, with some rock climbing as well, rock scrambling as well. It was all loads of fun. But if we had have thought too much about it, then we may have talked, some of us may have talked ourselves out of it. What I learnt also was, always do this with my packing, is what I didn't wear. What did I take that I didn't wear or didn't use? Does that need to come next time? So fortunately, this time the weather was pretty good, so I didn't need thermals and I didn't need beanie. And I didn't need one dress. I took one dress and it wasn't really warm enough for a dress. But everything else in my case, I actually used. So that was a good thing. How well did my gear perform? I always review that as well. So my raincoat stood up. We had some tremendous rain on one day, which was beautiful, overflowing waterfall. How well is my luggage still holding up? What about my, the toiletries and those type of things that I took? How are my poles going? And my poles are quite old now and are getting a little bit, or getting actually very difficult to unpop and the Z poles and fold down. So they'll need a bit of a review as well. What fueled us each day? Now, we all know that European breakfasts are, quite delicious, but basic, of bread and meats and cheeses and croissants, and then some fruit as well. Did that fuel us? Was that enough to fuel us? At first, eating croissants every morning is a novelty, and then you go, oh, I don't know whether I need it today. But what fueled us? What kept us? And we were hungry. What kept us fueled? Part of this adventure was we were able to buy our own lunch in the supermarket, and salad was a great choice, or sandwiches, and some would switch from salad to sandwich to salad to sandwich. I better not knock the bear over. Working out what fueled you during the day. So all this really great feedback in a really safe and supportive environment. What made us laugh? Anything and everything, Heather. I think, that's really important to think about, what makes us laugh. Who is encouraging and who is supportive. European hikers what we learned about them, and I'm in admiration of Northern Hemisphere hikers because they grow up doing it. We are quite, as I am with my hands here, very generous in our movement, whereas European hikers, Japanese hikers are very efficient. They're like, it's a bit like skiing. They're very efficient with their bodies, minimizing the amount of energy, but they're just so agile because they've been doing these grand, trails of heights and different surfaces probably for most of their life. And that makes such a difference as well. But perhaps what I learned the most about Corsica is how adventurous in the mind all of our team were. There was, just such willingness to embrace every opportunity as it came, no matter what might be dished up with the changes to the weather or the timetable. And that was a truly wonderful thing. So one thing I always ask myself on adventure or whenever I holiday is, what is the one thing that I will either take away from this adventure in terms of learning about myself, or take into my life that I'm going to do, moving forward. I've got to move this. I better hold on to it. That I need to do moving forward, or want to do moving forward, or what is the one thing I will leave behind, metaphorically, in terms of that's not serving me anymore. I don't want to do that. And so I asked everyone to have a think about that. We didn't have to share it. And some are still traveling on and might still be thinking about that. But I think it's a really important thing. And there's something fantastic about going on adventures, but there's also something fantastic about coming home to our routine of every day. And that rhythm and routine, and falling into this space of, nurturing yourself. You do it on holidays, of course, but nurturing yourself in the daily rhythm, and that saying of show me your daily pattern and I'll show you your life is really, really important. So they're my learnings and observations from 3 weeks in between a marathon and a little downtime and a wonderful, wonderful hiking adventure in Corsica. So hopefully you got something out of that, not stopping before we start, not looking at those hurdles, not looking at the what ifs, because, we don't go from, one giant leap for mankind didn't start with one step. One giant leap for mankind was, decades or centuries in the making. So, think about that, is we don't have to do it all at once. We just need to make the first step. And that, with everything we do, it's a learning opportunity. And I think that's really important, to learn from each other and to learn about ourselves as well. And, rhythm and routine is really, really important. So that's it from me. I'm going to go cook myself some dinner and then go into bed before long. So I will see. We have our online trail fit training back this week. We have Couch to Mountains on pretty soon. We have cardio boost. We have a masterclass as well about anxiety for the trail, and that's really relevant. So thank you, and I will see you next week. Thanks.